Okay, so the first Emerald meeting that I went to was about sexual assault and the community's response to the obscene actions of Larry Nassar. It was a very emotional meeting because of the climate of campus at the time. Everyone pretty much just shared their feelings about the situation and their beliefs about the enabling that went on at the university. This situation heavily relates to topics of privilege and toxic masculinity. Larry Nassar was a white male in a position of power, and society let him be in control of every situation with a patient. Society has taught women not to cross a man or anyone in power, even if they're truly wrong. This is what the culture of toxic masculinity has created in this world. Doctors sexually assaulting their patients. Everyone in the meeting pretty much had the same responses to Larry Nassar and what he did and the enabling that happened and the darkness that this brought to our university. Everyone just thought it was horrible and that something needs to change. In the second Emerald meeting, we discussed climate change, and it was interesting to discuss this topic with people who aren't STEM majors as a STEM major, because usually when I talk about climate change, it's like in a science class and it's strictly like related to the cause and effect of like what's scientifically affected. But in this discussion, we talked about the effect on people and how different cultures are affected differently and react differently to climate change. We did an activity that showed like how in times of crisis, like climate change, high power countries like the US will harvest resources from countries that aren't as wealthy or powerful, and this is another example of privilege, but this time it's the privilege of our whole country. This reminded me of the denial stage in Bennett's model. As citizens of this powerful nation, we're taking from the less powerful countries without even acknowledging the fact that they're different and they have different situations and they're genuinely struggling. We're just thinking about ourselves and our own culture and what we need. We're like completely denying the fact that they are different people who need different things. And everyone kind of took the side of the not the US, and that said that what we were doing was wrong, and that was the general view of the meeting. And at the last Emerald meeting that I attended, we discussed the separation of church and state. Most of the discussion was based around deciding whose rights were more important, because often the separation of church and state causes the rights of people to conflict. So, for example, when the owners of Hobby Lobby were given the right to deny contraceptives to their employees, the employees weren't granted their healthcare rights, and so in these situations, the government often chooses to maintain the rights of religious white people and those who haven't been exposed to prejudice generally throughout the history of our nation. And this reminds me of the topic of discrimination that we discussed in class. This group that has dominance in our nation has consistently been the group that gets to keep their rights when talking about separation of church and state. And so the other groups who don't get their rights, they get their rights taken away, and they're being discriminated against. And this is not fair, and as a nation, we need to find a way to stop discriminating and to give everyone their rights. And this is what we talked about a lot in the meeting, and it was very confusing because you couldn't talk about giving one person their rights without taking it away from another person, and you had to take sides on whose rights are more important, and it's a touchy subject, so it's interesting to hear people actually having different views, different ideas about what rights should you get. So I thought it was very enlightening, all of the Emerald meetings, and I'm glad that I went. I learned a lot about culture and connected it to our class.